Hello viewers, welcome back. In this video, we are going to see how we can integrate Azure OpenAI service for text generation as well as text to image generation like DALL-E with Streamlit to create a Streamlit based chatbot app as well as an image generator app. So let's continue. So here you can see one demo. I have asked what is generative AI, what are the applications of generative AI, and you can see the response. Once I click send, I can see the generated response from OpenAI chatbot service or GPT model. Okay. Similarly, we have DALL-E image generator where we can give text-based uh, prompt and we can get the image response generated by DALL-E image generator model, which is text to image based image generator. Okay, so here I have given generate 3D image of a marble castle with Gothic architecture, and it is trying to generate that image here. And here we can see somewhat a castle generated in the Gothic architecture. It's not good enough like what we have seen with other models like Midjourney or Lexica, those kind of AIs, but or stable diffusion. But we can see it is trying to generate image which is of castle and in Gothic architecture. Okay. I can simply give generate a sketch image of a marble castle with Gothic architecture and I'll click generate. It is going to take some time. Once it's generated, I will continue. Now here we can see a different castle generated in the form of sketch, pencil sketch. Okay, it's a marble castle with Gothic architecture. So this is just rough sketch generated by DALL-E. Next, we will see how we can create these web apps using Streamlit framework, right? So let's go to prerequisite. So what we need first, we have Azure. We need to have a Azure subscription. It could be a trial or paid subscription. Okay. Then we need Azure OpenAI service access. And then after getting the access, we need to provision Azure OpenAI resource. And then we have to get API, Azure OpenAI API, URL and access key so that we can work with the Streamlit application and embed these APIs and use this access key to make the API calls. Okay. And then we also need Python and Visual Studio Code so that we can create this application. We'll be using Visual Studio Code IDE to code this application. And then there will be other Python packages required to code the whole application. So let's proceed. So I already have created a trial Azure subscription. Okay. And then also provision Azure OpenAI service. Okay. So if you want to know about how to create Azure OpenAI service, let me show it to you here. You go here in the Azure AI services, or you can search here Azure OpenAI services. Now, before having access to this Azure OpenAI service, you have to request for Azure OpenAI service, right? And this is the page where you can raise the request by filling these details. I'll put a link in the description to a video on my channel where I have shown how you can raise the request for Azure OpenAI service by filling all these details. So you can either click on the I button or you can go to the description where I'll be putting this link to this page. Okay. So uh, once we request Azure OpenAI access, service access, then we can work with this part where we have to provision an Azure OpenAI service. Now you can click on create and this will give you to either create or select an existing resource group. Region should always be East US where we have OpenAI service available. There are no other regions where you can use free of cost. So you have to use East US region to access the Azure OpenAI service. So do not change that. Give your Azure OpenAI service a name. You can give OpenAI service demo like this. Okay. And if it's available, okay, then you can just select that, and then pricing tier you have to select standard, click next, and then create, and this will provision an Azure OpenAI service for you. I'm not going to do that because I already have done it. So I'll just discard the changes. I'll open the provisioned Azure AI service that I have already created with this resource group name, subscription ID, and other details. Now, once Azure OpenAI service is provisioned or created, you have to go to key and endpoints, okay, and copy the key one and the URL of the OpenAI API. This is the base URL, okay. I'll be showing how you can work with DALL API. There are some other URL parts that you need to append to make the full URL for DALL API, Whisper API, and Language API. We'll be working with Text API, which is the Language API, and then Image API, which is DALL API, where we'll be giving the text and it will generate the image. Here we'll be giving text and it will generate the text response. So these two APIs we'll be using one by one to create two applications. One is chat application, which is text to text, and which is DALL app, which is text to image generation. Okay. So now coming here, so as I mentioned, we need to have these two things: Azure subscription and then access to Azure OpenAI service. You can go to this link and raise a request to get the access for Azure OpenAI service. Next, I have shown how you can provision this Azure OpenAI resource. Next, I have shown how you can provision an Azure OpenAI resource with all these specification, and that's it. Once we have this provisioned resource, we can copy key and API URLs from key and endpoint section here, and we'll keep it so that we can use it in our Streamlit application. Now, since we have Azure subscription now, and then we have got the Azure OpenAI service access, we have also provisioned Azure OpenAI resource, and then I have also copied API URL and access key. Now we need to open Visual Studio Code, and before that you need to install Python. So you can go to Python website and click on download, and you can download the Python, and also go to Visual Studio Code website and click on download, and you can download the Visual Studio Code from here for your system. Next, close this tab. So once we have the Python installed and Visual Studio Code also installed, then we can go ahead and create the web application. So let's proceed with the chat app that I have created. So here, if you see in the requirements.txt, let me go. We need to have OpenAI, we need to have decouple, we need to have request, we need to have Streamlit, okay, and we also need to have Python.NET environment package. It's not mentioned here. We can add that as well. So we need to install Python.NET environment so that we can keep our API key and the URL in the environment file. Let me show it to you here. So I have API key here and the API base URL here, and API DALL base URL, which will follow this image generation. Okay. Or you can skip this part. I have used it in. So here you can see in the dot environment, I have API key and then API base URL. So these key and URL we'll be using, okay, for our application. Next, let me go to the chat app. So we are importing Streamlit package, okay, and OpenAI package and decouple. From decouple package, we have to import configuration. Okay. Now, before importing this, you need to install it using requirements.txt. Okay. So you run this command pip install -r requirement.txt, and all the packages that are mentioned here will get installed automatically for you. Once the packages are installed, you can import these packages, and then you configure API key and base using this configuration, and API key and base will be values will be taken from .environment file. So we are using environment file so that we are not going to accidentally expose our API key and URL, right? Currently, for development and showing how it works, I have shown you the environment file, but this will be not checked in when you check in the code in the GitHub or somewhere in other code repository. You will be omitting this .environment file or ignoring this file. Next, you have to mention what kind of API you are using. So, which is Azure API. API base is base URL. Then API version is this one. Then API key is this key or access key that we have in the environment file. Then we are giving a title to our application. Then we are giving title to our application OpenAI chatbot app built in Streamlit. And then we are taking a text input, whatever the prompt will give, your message or your prompt. Next, so this is using Streamlit widget text.input to generate a text box where we'll be putting our prompt, and then also it's using Streamlit button widget to create a button which is send button, and whatever the messages we will write here in the text box will be going as a prompt, okay, to our API. And this function, basically OpenAI completion.create function, is taking ChatGPT 35 turbo model, okay, and then our prompt, which is user message, and some other parameters to make a API call, okay, and based on this API call, we'll get a response from our ChatGPT or OpenAI service, right? GPT-35 turbo model. Now, where we have this turbo model, let me show it to you. So if you go to overview page, and once we click explore, it will take us to Azure OpenAI Studio. In the Azure OpenAI Studio, you'll see this sidebar, okay, where we have playground management. You go to deployments, and here you can see I have deployed a ChatGPT 35 turbo model. Now, how you can deploy this this ChatGPT model? You click on create new deployment, select a GPT-35 turbo model, keep it default, and give the name for your deployment, and that's it. You click on the create icon button. You click on the create button, and it will deploy the model ChatGPT 35 turbo model here, just like here. If you click here, you can see some more properties. What is the model name, model version, then other policies, and then token per minute rate, rate limit, and rate limit request per minute. So all these specification you'll see here. Next, so once we have this model deployed, we can use this ChatGPT model to make the request. And once the response is received from the model, we can extract response.choices, and from the choices we can extract the text response and show it as a markdown. Okay, so we are using Streamlit markdown widget to display the chatbot's response in the form of markdown. Okay, next, if I'll show you the UI, So this is our text input. Okay, so Streamlit text input, then Streamlit button uh, based on send. Once we click the send button, our prompt will be going to ChatGPT model to make a request based on the ChatGPT uh, engine that is going to process our prompt and give us the response back using the Azure OpenAI service or API. And once that response is uh, coming back, we are extracting the response from there and displaying it here as a markdown. So you can see here. Let me show you another demo. What is here? I'm giving a prompt. What is Streamlit and how to build web app with it? And here I'm getting Streamlit documentation and Streamlit gallery references or URL. So that's the response from the bot. We can go to Streamlit gallery and we can see some of the applications created with this. Next, we will see OpenAI image generator, how this application could be created using Streamlit. Okay, so let's go to Visual Studio Code and open DALL app. So similarly, for ChatGPT chat app, we imported some packages. So for DALL also, we are importing time, request, decouple package and Streamlit packages. Again, we are working with same API key and base URL to make the API call for DALL app, and we are giving a title to our Streamlit application, OpenAI image generator Streamlit. We can mention DALL OpenAI image generator created in Streamlit, and here you can see we are defining a function post call this base URL along with OpenAI images generation, and then with API versions, this will be the full URL to make the image generation API call. Okay. In the headers, we are passing content type and the API key. And in data, we are passing the prompt, what kind of image we want, size of the dimension of the image that should be generated, and number of images that we want to generate. So I have kept one. Okay. Next, we are making a request, post request with the above URL, header information, and data or JSON body basically. Okay, and once the post request is uh, done, we'll receive a response which is 202 OK. Okay, that means the request has been reached. Okay, and accepted. Okay, so if the request is accepted, the response will return an image ID. Okay, and that ID we can use to make another get call based on the operation ID or image ID. Okay, which will give us the image URL. Okay, so in the second step, we are making another API call, which is a get call. Okay, with the operation URL. Okay, so the base URL, then open AI operations images, and then we are giving or passing this image ID into the URL. Okay, and in headers we are again mentioning API key to access that image based on the image ID. Okay, and then again we'll receive a response from the URL, and this time we'll receive a 200 OK status, and the response will contain a URL under result, and under result we'll have a data tag. Under that data tag we'll have a URL. It's a array of URLs. Since we have given number as 1, if we give 1, 2, 3 or more than one number of images that we want based on our prompt, then it will generate multiple URLs under this data tag. Okay, for multiple images. Okay, so currently it will contain one URL, the image, and that URL we are extracting and showing it in the Streamlit UI. Now this is the Streamlit UI application. Okay, so the code for Streamlit UI. where we are giving a text input widget. Okay, so this will generate a Streamlit text input or a text box where we'll be giving the prompt. Okay, so this is nothing but the text box where we'll put the prompt. Then we have a generate button. So this is the generate button or generate image widget. Once we click that image, then it will perform this operation ID. So it will also show generating image. Okay, and then it will make these calls. Okay, post call based on the prompt, and this post call will give us operation ID or nothing but the image ID it will return. Okay, based on the prompt, and again based on the email ID if again based on the image ID if it's not blank, we are making a another call, get call, and subsequently since until the image is generated, we are going to show a progress bar that image is still generating, and once the image generation is complete, then only we'll be able to extract the URL based on the operation ID, and that URL will be shown as an image. Okay, so here again we are checking if the image URL is blank or not. If it's not blank, it will have some URL. Then based on this image URL, will be able to show the image in our Streamlit app. Okay, and also we are properly handling different error scenarios like image retrieval, URL retrieval is failed, or image generation itself is failed. All these operations we are handling. So now what we saw in the chat app and the DALL-E image based generation, in the chat app we are just making a text based on text prompt, we are just making a API call. Okay, chat completion call, and it will respond back with the text response. Okay, and we can see that in our application here. Okay, and in the DALL-E image we have to make two subsequent API calls. One is to give the prompt and generate the image. While the image generation is going on, it will give us a image ID, which is the unique ID of the image. Okay, and we'll take that image ID from the first response, and based on the image ID we'll again make a get call to operations that is going on in the background to generate the image. Based on that image ID, if the image generation is complete, we will get a URL, and that URL will be used to generate or show this image in the application. So that's the whole process of image generation based on the DALL image. And that's how we are able to integrate chatbot in the Streamlit application and also DALL image generation in the Streamlit application. So these two web apps we have created today. I'll be putting GitHub link to this code in video description. So go check out that link and you can work with that. Thank you. Bye bye.